America gave us light music and burgers, and some of the dumbest ideas ever. For every genius, there's someone who blew it big time. These aren't little mistakes, they're full-blown national screw-ups. From leaders to dreamers, meet the people who turn confidence into chaos. This is the 33 biggest idiots in America's history. Number 1. It's early Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941. The sky over Hawaii is quiet. A radar operator spots a massive wave of planes coming straight toward Pearl Harbor. He reports it up the chain. The officer on duty yawns and says, "Relax, that's probably our guys." It wasn't. Minutes later, Japan attacks. Bombs fall, ships explode, and the U.S. Pacific Fleet is in ruins. It's one of the biggest should-have double-checked moments in history. If you ever ignore a warning sign, remember Pearl Harbor, the day America learned that probably nothing can blow up everything. Number 2. In the 1830s, President Andrew Jackson had a bright idea: steal land from Native Americans and call it progress. His plan was the Indian Removal Act, which forced entire nations to walk hundreds of miles to what the government called new territory. Thousands died from cold, hunger, and disease. Politicians called it relocation. The Cherokee called it the Trail of Tears. It was meant to make America stronger. Instead, it exposed how cruel stupidity can look when you write it into law. Number 3. The 1920s. Jazz, champagne, and corruption so thick you could spread it on toast. Albert Fall, the Secretary of the Interior, thought he'd found a shortcut to riches. He quietly rented out federal oil reserves to his rich friends for thank you gifts in cash, bonds, and even cows. When reporters found out, the country exploded in outrage. Fall became the first U.S. cabinet member to go to prison. The scandal was called Teapot Dome, but it boiled over like an entire kettle of greed. Moral of the story: if you're going to sell oil, don't sell your job with it. Number 4. 1961. The CIA cooks up a secret plan to overthrow Fidel Castro. They train Cuban exiles, promise air support, and tell them, "Don't worry, we've got this." They didn't. The invasion hit the beach at the Bay of Pigs, right where Castro's army was already waiting. The liberators were captured in days. It was supposed to be a heroic victory. Instead, it turned into an international comedy special. The only thing that landed perfectly was the embarrassment. Number 5. In 1920, America tried to fix society by banning alcohol. The plan was simple: no booze, no crime, no problems. Instead, gangsters got rich, cops got corrupt, and people started drinking mystery moonshine that could double as car fuel. Speakeasies popped up on every corner, and half the country pretended they'd quit. After 13 miserable years, the government gave up and said, "You know what? Let's just drink responsibly." Prohibition proved one thing: you can't outlaw fun, only raise the price of getting caught. Number 6. It's 1814 and America's fighting the War of 1812. Yes, that's confusing already. The British have just torched parts of Canada, and Washington, D.C. is next on their list. But American officials are sure the capital is safe. They don't beef up defenses. They don't even move the important documents. They just hope for the best. Hope loses. British troops march right into the city, find dinner waiting at the president's table, and sit down for a free meal before torching the place. They burn the Capitol, the Treasury, and the White House. President Madison flees. The First Lady grabs a painting of George Washington, and America learns that pretending it won't happen isn't a defense strategy. The nation rebuilt, sure, but the British left one message behind: don't start a war you can't even guard your kitchen in. Number 7. After Pearl Harbor, fear took over logic. In 1942, the U.S. government decided that people of Japanese ancestry, citizens or not, might secretly be spies. So they rounded up over 120,000 of them and threw them into camps in the desert. Families lost their homes, their businesses, and their freedom, not for what they'd done, but for who they were. Meanwhile, German and Italian Americans faced almost nothing. Logic had left the building. Years later, the government apologized and paid reparations, but the damage was done. It remains one of America's most shameful, better safe than sorry moments. Except, no one was safe, and everyone should have been sorry. Number 8. Picture this, the first big Civil War battle. Summer of 1861. Washington's elite grab picnic baskets and head to a hill near Bull Run to watch history. They expected a nice afternoon show, maybe some musket smoke and bragging rights at dinner. What they got was chaos. The Union Army collapsed and retreated straight through the spectators. Horses panicked, carriages flipped, champagne spilled, and ladies in fancy hats ran for their lives. The so-called audience got front row seats to a full-blown disaster. The lesson? Don't treat war like live entertainment unless you enjoy being trampled by your own army. Number 9, 1974. Inflation is rising, groceries cost a fortune, and President Gerald Ford is desperate for an idea. He calls his team together and says, "We need something to inspire confidence." They come up with a slogan, "Whip inflation now." No laws, no fixes, just red and white buttons that said win. Citizens were told to wear them and think positive. America responded with laughter, skyrocketing prices. The campaign flopped so hard that reporters joked the buttons should say, "Wish inflation would." Ford meant well, but the plan proved that you can't fight economics with arts and crafts. Number 10. The 1970s were all about cheap cars, and Ford wanted in. They built the Pinto, small, stylish, and just one problem. The gas tank sat inches from the back bumper. A simple rear-end crash could turn it into a rolling fireball. Engineers warned the company, but bosses ran the numbers. A recall would cost more than the lawsuits, so they did nothing. Then came the explosions, the lawsuits, and a PR nightmare that burned brighter than any headlight. Ford saved $11 per car and lost its reputation. It became the perfect symbol of corporate stupidity, when greed hits the gas and never looks back. Before we dive into the next disaster, quick question. If you've laughed, cringed, or shouted, "How is this real?" even once, go ahead and hit subscribe. We've still got 23 more ways America proved gravity works on Ideas 2. All right, let's keep going. Number 11. The year is 1929. The stock market is booming. Everyone's rich on paper and confidence is sky high. People are buying stock like it's candy, often with money they don't even have. Economists warn it can't last. Politicians shrug and say, the fundamentals are sound. Then the market crashes. Banks fail, businesses close, families lose everything. Instead of jumping into action, President Herbert Hoover insists that prosperity is just around the corner. For 3 long years, America keeps walking around the same empty corner. By the time real help arrived, 1 in 4 Americans was out of work. The Great Depression wasn't just a financial disaster. It was what happens when optimism wears blinders and common sense takes a vacation. Number 12. 1967. Space is the future. NASA is racing to the moon, astronauts are national heroes, and confidence is sky high. Then comes the Apollo 1 test. Astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee climb into their capsule for a routine ground check. Inside, the cabin is pressurized with pure oxygen, and the door opens inward. Engineers knew it was risky, but deadlines were everything. A single spark turns the capsule into an oven. All 3 men die before anyone can reach them. The tragedy shocked the country and forced NASA to completely rethink how it built and tested spacecraft. The space race went on, but Apollo 1 was the deadly reminder that even the smartest people can die from rushing genius. Number 13. In the Roaring '20s, America had Wall Street greed and jazz fever, and the perfect stage for the Teapot Dome of business scandals, the Florida land boom. Speculators sold swampland as paradise. People bought lots they'd never seen, sight unseen and usually underwater. Fake maps, fake cities, fake dreams, until a few hurricanes hit and washed the fantasy away. By 1926, the market collapsed, and thousands were left holding deeds to gator farms. Florida real estate has since recovered, but the phrase "too good to be true" was basically born there. Number 14. It's 1979, and the word nuclear still sounds cool instead of terrifying. At the 3 Mile Island plant in Pennsylvania, a minor technical glitch triggers a chain of mistakes. Alarms go off, gauges misread, and workers shut the wrong valves. Steam escapes, coolant drains, and panic spreads before anyone figures out what's actually happening. No one dies, but radiation leaks into the atmosphere. The country freaks out, and the movie The China Syndrome, about a nuclear accident, hits theaters the same week. You can't buy irony like that. The incident made America afraid of nuclear power for decades, all because a few people thought, it's probably fine inside a reactor. Number 15. It's 1968. The Vietnam War is dragging on, and U.S. generals are telling everyone victory is near. Then, the Viet Cong launched the Tet Offensive. Hundreds of surprise attacks all across South Vietnam, even inside the U.S. Embassy. Television cameras roll, and Americans watching at home realize they've been lied to. The government loses credibility overnight. Even though the U.S. technically won the battle, it lost the war in public opinion. It became the moment people stopped believing what officials said and started asking, wait, are we the idiots here? Turns out you can't win hearts and minds if you're losing trust and logic. Number 16. During the Cold War, the CIA treated world politics like a chess game played with live grenades. From Cuba to Iran to Central America, they pulled off coups, funded rebels, and armed groups that would later turn into enemies. One operation in the 1980s secretly sold weapons to Iran, a country the U.S. wasn't even supposed to talk to, and used the money to fund rebels in Nicaragua. It sounded clever in the briefing room. In reality, it was a global facepalm called the Iran-Contra affair. When it blew up, America learned that covert doesn't mean smart. The CIA wasn't just fighting communism, it was accidentally creating tomorrow's villains, one secret deal at a time. Number 17. In 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq to destroy weapons of mass destruction. There was just one problem. Those weapons didn't exist. After years of fighting, thousands of lives lost, and trillions of dollars spent, the mission ended with nothing but chaos and regret. The invasion toppled Saddam Hussein, but created a power vacuum that bred ISIS. Politicians called it liberation. Historians call it one of the biggest foreign policy blunders in modern times. The only thing more explosive than the bombs was the overconfidence. America went looking for weapons and found a never-ending mess instead. Number 18. The 1950s. America is terrified of communism, and Senator Joseph McCarthy sees a career opportunity. He waves around a list of supposed traitors in government and starts accusing everyone of being a red spy. Teachers, actors, writers, nobody's safe. Careers vanish overnight. It's paranoia turned into policy. Years later, the Senate censures McCarthy, but the damage is done. He never found a single real spy, just wrecked reputations. McCarthyism proved that the most dangerous thing in Washington isn't an enemy. It's fear with a microphone. Number 19. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina hits the Gulf Coast. Levees break, New Orleans floods, and thousands are stranded. Rescue teams can't coordinate, supplies don't arrive, and government agencies argue while people sit on rooftops. The world watches live as one of America's most famous cities drowns. The Federal Emergency Management Agency becomes a national joke, and heck of a job Brownie goes down as the most tone-deaf compliment in U.S. history. Katrina wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a man-made disaster of red tape, slow thinking, and no plan. Number 20. Early 2000s. Housing prices are booming, banks are handing out loans like candy, and nobody's reading the fine print. People are buying homes they can't afford, using money that doesn't exist, backed by Wall Street's magic math. In 2008, the bubble bursts. Banks collapse, markets crash, and millions lose their homes. The subprime mortgage crisis wipes out decades of savings and proves that greed is not a sustainable business model. Wall Street called it innovation. Everyone else called it, please don't check my 401k. The only people who got bailed out were the ones who caused it. Number 21. It's a cold January morning in 1986. Across America, school kids are glued to classroom TVs to watch history. A teacher, Krista McAuliffe, is about to ride the Space Shuttle Challenger into orbit. NASA's smiling, the press is cheering, and engineers are quietly panicking. They've warned for days that the temperature is too low. The rubber O-rings on the rocket boosters could crack. Delay the launch, they beg. Management says no. The schedule is locked, and the world is watching. 73 seconds after liftoff, the shuttle turns into a fireball across the blue Florida sky. Every child watching learns in real time that adults aren't always right. Investigations later show that people at the top ignored clear warnings because they didn't want another delay on the news. The Challenger disaster didn't just destroy a spacecraft. It destroyed the illusion that optimism beats physics. Number 22. The year is 1929, and America is living on champagne dreams and borrowed cash. Everyone's investing. Your barber, your milkman, your Aunt Mildred. Banks are handing out loans like candy, and the stock market only goes one direction, up. For months, newspapers call it the unstoppable boom. Nobody wants to hear about risk. Then, in late October, prices nosedive. Investors panic. People try to sell, but there are no buyers. The market crashes so fast it makes the sound of broken dreams. Within weeks, banks collapse. Savings disappear. Ordinary families lose everything. Men who owned entire buildings are suddenly sleeping on park benches. President Hoover insists things will turn around soon. They don't. The Great Depression drags on for a decade. It's what happens when a whole country bets the farm, and the barn, and the cows on eternal good luck. Number 23, April 20th, 2010. Deepwater Horizon, a gigantic offshore drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico, is chasing oil 2 miles below the surface. For weeks, workers complain that safety checks are being skipped to save time. Managers push forward anyway. The company's losing money every minute the drill stops. Then a gas bubble shoots up the pipe, pressure spikes, and in seconds the platform explodes into a fireball visible for miles. 11 workers die instantly. The rig sinks, and a gusher of crude oil starts pouring into the ocean. BP spends 87 days trying to plug the leak. They try golf balls, concrete, and even a top hat. Everything but competence. Hundreds of miles of coastline turn black. Fishermen lose their livelihoods, and the CEO tells reporters he wants his life back. The Gulf gets ruined, and the world gets a new definition of corporate stupidity, ignoring science to save a deadline. Number 24. Once upon a time, Kodak was photography. They sold film, cameras, and memories by the millions. In 1975, one of their own engineers invented the digital camera, a small, clunky box that could store images electronically. It was revolutionary. Kodak executives looked at it, nodded, and said, "Cool idea, hide it." They feared it would kill their film business, so they buried their own invention. Fast forward 20 years. Digital cameras are everywhere. Phones take pictures instantly. And Kodak, a filing for bankruptcy. They didn't lose to technology. They lost to pride. Innovation knocked politely, and Kodak slammed the door shut because they didn't like how it dressed. The company that taught the world to smile couldn't face its own future. Number 25. February 1st, 2003. The Space Shuttle Columbia is gliding back to Earth after a flawless mission. But 16 days earlier, during launch, a piece of foam insulation broke off the fuel tank and struck the shuttle's left wing. Engineers spotted it on video. They warned managers that it could have opened a hole in the heat shield. NASA's leadership dismissed it. They told the crew nothing. As Columbia re-enters the atmosphere, superheated air floods through that tiny hole, turning the spacecraft into a firestorm. It breaks apart over Texas. All 7 astronauts die before they even know what's happening. An investigation later found that NASA culture, not technology, was to blame. People were so used to success they stopped listening to bad news. It was Challenger all over again. The same arrogance, the same warnings, the same tragic ending. Turns out the most dangerous thing in space isn't debris, it's denial. Number 26. The year is 2001. Energy giant Enron is America's darling, a genius company that supposedly reinvented business. Reporters call its CEO the smartest guy in the room. Behind the scenes, the room was full of smoke and mirrors. Enron wasn't making real profits. It was cooking its books with fake numbers and hiding debt in shell companies. When the truth came out, investors lost billions, employees lost pensions, and executives walked away rich. The scandal destroyed one of the largest accounting firms in the world and introduced everyone to a new phrase: creative accounting, also known as lying with spreadsheets. Enron proved that corporate confidence is like a balloon. It only takes one pin of truth to pop it. Number 27, it's 1882, and the US government has a new idea: keep America pure by banning Chinese workers. They call it the Chinese Exclusion Act. It's the first major law in American history to single out an entire group of people based on race. Immigrants who built the railroads and cities are suddenly told they don't belong. Businesses suffer, families are split, and racism becomes government policy. Decades later, the law finally gets repealed, but the damage lingers. Generations lost, stereotypes strengthened, history rewritten. The U.S. called itself the land of opportunity, then nailed the door shut for the people who helped build it. Number 28, the 1950s. America's in full Cold War panic mode, and nuclear testing is the new national hobby. Out in the Nevada desert, scientists detonate atomic bombs for research. What they don't mention is that the wind is blowing fallout straight toward nearby towns. Farmers watch their livestock die, kids play in radioactive dust, and Hollywood actors filming westerns nearby start getting cancer. The government swears it's safe until the evidence becomes too obvious to deny. Thousands of people end up sick from radiation exposure, all because nobody wanted to cancel the fireworks show. It's proof that sometimes the most dangerous blast isn't the bomb. It's the one made by arrogance. Number 29. It's the early 1980s, and Wall Street has a new obsession: fast profits. Junk bonds, insider trading, and billion-dollar mergers create the illusion that everyone's a financial genius. Then come the scandals: Michael Milken, Ivan Boesky, the whole greedy circus. Companies collapse, savings vanish, and the average taxpayer picks up the bill. When asked why they did it, the bankers say the quiet part out loud: because we could. The 80s taught America that greed isn't good, it's just very well dressed. Number 30, the 1950s again. American schools and factories are full of people working hard, but one senator decides he's the only real patriot left: Joseph McCarthy. He waves a list of supposed communists in the government and promises to root them out. He never shows real proof, but that doesn't stop the panic. Teachers, soldiers, and actors lose jobs over rumors. Families break apart under suspicion. Even the U.S. Army gets dragged into his witch hunt. Eventually, the Senate calls his bluff and censures him, ending his reign of fear. But the damage is permanent. America learned that fear can ruin freedom faster than any enemy can. Number 31. It's 1916, and America hasn't yet joined World War I, but the war is already creeping close. In New Jersey, there's a place called Black Tom Island, a storage site packed with American-made weapons waiting to ship overseas. Security? Practically none. Guards are half asleep, fences are weak, and the only thing tighter than security is the budget. One summer night, German saboteurs sneak in and plant bombs. The explosion is so massive it rattles windows all the way to Philadelphia. Fragments rain down on the Statue of Liberty, and the blast shakes Manhattan awake. At first, officials blame an accident. Later, they discover it was foreign agents, and that the whole thing could have been prevented with one watchful guard. The U.S. learned that night that ignoring safety is a bad idea, especially when your backyard is full of dynamite. Number 32. It's the 1890s in Wilmington, North Carolina, a thriving, racially mixed city with a black middle class, black-owned newspaper, and elected officials. White supremacists decide they don't like that. In 1898, they organize a coup, the only successful coup in U.S. history, and overthrow the local government by force. They burn buildings, kill dozens, and drive black leaders out of town. The rest of the country barely reacts. Newspapers call it restoring order. It would take nearly a century for history books to even admit it happened. Wilmington was a warning that democracy isn't something you just invent once. It's something you have to protect from the people who think it only belongs to them. Number 33. Fast forward to the modern age, the age of overconfidence in suits. It's 2007 and America's housing market looks unstoppable. Banks are approving mortgages for anyone with a pulse. Investors are buying what they don't understand, and TV shows are bragging about flipping houses like pancakes. Then the bubble bursts. The economy collapses, millions lose homes, and global markets crash. The people who caused it get bonuses. The people who trusted them lose everything. The American dream becomes the American foreclosure. It's the ultimate repeat lesson in history. We never run out of ways to make the same mistake. We just find shinier ways to package it. So there you have it. 2 centuries of bold moves, bad math, and world-class faceplants. From burning our own capital to bankrupting our own banks, America keeps proving one thing: confidence really can outrun common sense. But here's the twist: every time we mess up, we get smarter. Eventually. It's what makes the country ridiculous, brilliant, and still kind of unstoppable. If you laughed, learned, or lost faith in humanity just a little, hit subscribe. We've got plenty more where that came from. Drop a comment with the dumbest moment you think deserves to make part 2, and let's keep celebrating history's favorite hobby, learning things the hard way.